About that next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, and welcome back to hopefully a pretty quick episode of the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I just wanted to have a quick little episode to talk about what's going on with Ryan Bates. So you might have already heard this. Ryan Bates, the guy that we all kind of felt like he was going to be a Chicago Bear, is not going to be a Chicago Bear. The Bills matched his offer that the Bears were giving him, and he's no longer going to come to the Bears. Now, Ryan Poles, yet again, has to figure out what to do next. Let me just say, Ryan Poles has already had a super crazy and interesting time as a GM already. We're talking about trading Khalil Mack. We're talking about someone failing a physical, which you never really see with Ogunjobi. And then now you see somebody matching the deal for Ryan Bates. Just absolutely crazy beginning to this GM-ship of Ryan Poles. So let's actually get into the details. And when you actually look at the contract, you kind of understand why the Bills ended up matching that. Now, this is the biggest criticism that Ryan Poles has also gotten for this, how he kind of handled this entire situation. Now, looking at this, according to Brad Biggs, it was a 4-year deal that was $17 million total. So a little bit over $4 million a year, and about 8.8 of it was guaranteed, and all of that was really kind of coming in the first 2 years. So really, they have an out after the first 2 years pretty much with the Ryan Bates deal. And seeing this, honestly, I kind of was like, okay, he was just kind of lowballing him. And I felt like with Ryan Poles, what he was really kind of looking forward to, what he was trying to do, my guess is that he was trying to maybe scare off the Bills by saying it's a 4-year deal. But come on, $4 million a year, like, okay, that's expensive for a backup. But if you feel like he is going to be your starter, which it seems like Poles wanted him to be the starter, that's a really small amount of money. Obviously, if it went through, that would have been a huge signing for Ryan Poles. But obviously, we're seeing that the Bills are going to just be matching that offer, and he's not going to be a Chicago Bear. So I see a lot of people criticizing Ryan Poles, and honestly, I get it, because you gave him a very small amount of money, so it was very easy for the Bills to match it. Now, some of those people out there that, if you saw that the Bills don't have enough cap space, or you heard that, they can still make moves and clear some roster space. They can restructure some deals. They can cut some people. So they might make a move or two to make room for him. Also, if it's $4 million, on the contract, he had a $2.4 million deal. It's probably just maybe an extra $1 million for this year. So it's fairly easy for them to come up with that type of money because it was so cheap. So it's sad to see him go. I never really kind of mentioned much about Ryan Bates because I was sick when all that stuff was kind of going on. And honestly, I watched all the different snaps of him, and I wasn't too impressed. I thought that his pass blocking was pretty good, but really when I was seeing him as a run blocker, he could be pretty good from a zone perspective. That's why I'm so surprised that the Bills actually did match it, because he's not a power run guy. That the system that they run, I don't think it does him any favors, because as soon as he hits a blocker, as soon as he hits someone that's trying to rush the passer or tackle the running back, he just stops. And he's not moving forward like you would in that scheme. But now what? now what? Because Poles now has to shuffle up his cards again and figure out what is he going to be doing next. And I still think that you should get somebody in free agency. I'm really looking at tackles, though, because there's still a lot of tackles left. Dwayne Brown, Eric Fisher, Riley Reif, Jermaine Ifedi, if we wanted him again, Brandon Shell, Bobby Massey, Cornelius Lucas, Jason Peters, Nate Solder. The list goes on and on and on. not saying that we have to sign all of these people. What I'm saying is that there's still a lot of people out there that the Bears could potentially bring in. And the reason why I like the Bears going after a tackle is because it's, it's still up in the air if they really like Larry Borom or not. I like the idea of at least having a tackle that you can kind of say, this is our starter, and Jenkins, you're on the right-hand side. And then Borom can kind of compete at the right tackle spot or that right guard spot. Because just remember, Dakota Dozier, he's not good. He's not a good player. I'm not a fan of Sam Mustipher. I don't think he's that great. But I'd rather have Sam Mustipher out there at center and move Lucas Patrick over to right guard than have Dakota Dozier starting, because he's really not good. If you ask anybody that is a Vikings fan, they are shocked that he still at least has a job. That's what the outside perception, that is what the fan opinion of people that had to watch him really is. But let's actually go through because obviously the tackles, there's a lot of people out there, but we're talking about guard. Is there anybody still available there? Now, we talked about on Mock Draft Monday that there's a lot of talent in this draft that we can still get at this interior spot in the second, in the third, later on. There's some people as well, but still a lot of really good talent in this second and third round, because that's usually when you start to see the people that were tackles, like Salyer from Georgia, where he was a tackle and might not be the perfect tackle, so you're going to shift him into guard, and you see him drop a little bit later. So I feel confident that we can still at least draft someone, but I get a little bit nervous because you're putting a lot of stock in a rookie that you're drafting as a starter. It's just always a little bit nerve-wracking when you're doing something like that, because you're really putting your eggs that the draft board falls well, that the person you select is also good. It's a lot of things that have to go right. That's why I like, maybe you can bring somebody in. We'll just have to see. Knowing Ryan Poles, he's probably going to sign somebody that we really don't know. We're going to watch all the tape just like we did with Ryan Bates. We're going to convince ourselves he's good, and then and then we might not see him. We'll see if that happens again. But just so we know, some of these starting caliber guards that are still out there, it's not a lot. It really isn't. The selection is not great. You're talking about Trey Turner, yet again, somebody that is a big body, had a bit of a down year a couple years ago, but had a resurgence with the Steelers. He's someone that can play that right guard spot and played it at a high level last year. Do you still think you can get that production out of him? You got to hope so. So he is someone that could come in and start day one. Then Darrell Williams from the Buffalo Bills. Maybe it's a good way for us to just kind of sneak in and grab him. He has that right tackle, right guard positional versatility. I love that. He's personally my favorite because, like I said, you can put him at both spots and have that versatility so you can have the best five play. Also, I just had to throw this guy in there, Kyle Long. He might be retired again, but I just wanted to throw his name out there because there is the Poles connection, him bringing him in Kansas City. Maybe he really liked what he saw out of Kyle Long, or maybe he's like, yeah, we saw what we saw out of Kyle Long. Let's not bring him back. And obviously it takes two to tango with Kyle Long. He would want to come back to the Chicago Bears, who seemingly have done him wrong. But the last guy that I just want to bring up, because like I said, there's not a lot of guards out there. There's Josh Nijman from the Packers, if we're just calling out, certain Packers that are out there. But J.C. Tretter, obviously he's a phenomenal center, a very, very good center. And if you want the top five players to be out there, I don't care if you said Lucas Patrick is your starting center. I feel he understands if you bring in J.C. Tretter, a very, very good center, yeah, you can move over to right guard. That to me would be incredible. Do I think it's going to happen? Nah. I will be shocked, and I will graciously be shocked and sit back and go, oh my God, we signed J.C. Tretter, but I just don't think it's actually going to be happening. You know what I mean? But that's really it. Like, there's really not a lot of great guards out there, which is a little scary. But yet again, like we said, then we're putting our eggs more so in the draft basket. There's still a lot of good talent at tackle that you could potentially bring in, but a lot of those people are more so veterans, you would say. So think about a Jason Peters potentially coming back again if we really need someone. Obviously it didn't go the way that the Bears were hoping for. Now we just have to hope that we can move forward and make this offensive line very good so that we can protect our biggest asset, Justin Fields. Thank you guys so much. Like I said, this is just a quick little episode, quick little show, just to kind of talk about what's going on with Ryan Bates, because this is the first time that a backup has really made this type of headlines. It seemed like we all kind of fell in love with this and that he was young, and especially if we could add a 4-year deal cheap with him. But that's the reason why the Bills ended up re-signing him. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.